Over the years it has been in operation, Crowd1 has amassed quite a large amount of followers, particularly from developing nations in Asia and Africa. Their journey to get these numbers has been shrouded in uncertainty. From past experience, many nations across the globe have some form of legislation against pyramid schemes or multi-level marketing schemes without an actual product to sell to the members. So they say, if you have an actual product to sell to a member, maybe hair products, maybe beauty creams and all, then there's something, this is a business. But if you don't have anything tangible, then you're not a business. This is precisely why Crowd1 says it's in the business of selling educational materials, such as the packages that would turn readers into millionaires. This keeps them legally away from the arms of authorities across the countries within which they operate, and a closer look at the affiliate companies that they claim to be in business with for revenue sharing casts more doubt onto their story. One of the companies that they claim to be affiliated with is an online betting and gambling company called Afilgo. The other is Migster, a mobile gambling platform. Both these two have no worthwhile content on their websites. The information on these sites, which are supposed to generate revenue to be split between Crowd1 and investors, is made up of nothing but blurbs picked up from Wikipedia.
Essentially, that's now the hallmarks of a con.
It's not all, though. Repeatedly, Crowd1 has claimed to be in partnership with known brands such as PremierBet. Inquiries from the BBC team about this partnership were damning. So PremierBet responded to the BBC, said, "We are not in partnership with Crowd1 or Afligo." Mixter and Afligo, although listed as independent entities in partnership with Crowd1, were both set up in 2019 by Crowd1 themselves. Imagine that. The other business entity supposedly in partnership with Crowd1 for revenue sharing is Crowd Magazine. So far, the magazine is yet to hit newsstands, and a look into one of their issues shows that the content is generally made up of profiles of Crowd1 founders with a dash of plagiarized work from other known magazines. A cursory look reveals that very little effort has gone into the magazine to make it newsworthy in any way, yet it's one of the most pushed products by Crowd1. The other companies in affiliation with Crowd1 follow the same route, made up companies puffed up to appear legitimate. Through and through and through. That's how it looks like, Many companies that they say, this is actually the business that is generating an income, and then this is how we are able to share the profit with the shareholders and those that are invested in this company.
Doesn't it resemble some of the stories we hear in this country of people who actually supply nothing, thin air, and yet will present an invoice and expect to be paid?
Yes.
And yet that is not what was asked for.
And they claim that they are in business.
Yes, and they also claim that thin air is representative of a product that was actually tendered for.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Beautiful story here done by the BBC is gone live, all right, or already. You can find it on YouTube. It's The Pyramid Kings, Crowd1. It's made by BBC Investigative Eye, BBC Africa Eye Investigations. And let's now join Ayanda Charlie, who is the person who worked on this beautiful piece. Ayanda, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us, and congratulations. This is a very good story and very well told. I like the style that you use to tell the story, and those that will see it will agree with me, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So first, what is the story about? If we've been looking at it and saying, yeah, it's Crowd1. And the story that you've told about it so far is about Crowd1. But what was the investigation about, and what made you begin to investigate this particular organization?
Well, let me start with your latter question. The reason why we went into an investigation into Crowd1 was essentially because of its popularity on social media, and that popularity met with a great deal of people, saying that they've had negative experiences with Crowd1 and they feel that it's a scam. So it was basically just we followed some breadcrumbs and looked deeper into it and found that essentially it's an audacious global pyramid scheme that's run from Europe, and essentially they are using smartphones to cheat ordinary South Africans and Africans across the continent, as well as Asia and Latin America. And what they essentially do is that they have this click advertising, and they present themselves as a network marketing company that sells educational packages. But what we found is that, behind this shiny, campaign, we looked at each sort of product that they purport to be selling or have, and we looked at, the real moneymaker here is recruitment and not actually this product. So they claim to have an educational program and they claim to have a slew of digital products that they, sort of expose their members to, which the members can then promote and make money from promoting. But we uncovered that that's not true. And in fact, Crowd1 makes money through recruitment.
So what made you start investigating them? I mean, it's been in the country, in your country for a while. It's been in other countries in Africa, even in Kenya for a while. What is it that made you decide, you know what, I've got to start looking into this, the operations of this Crowd1 company?
Well, it was widely popular, right? Like you said, it seems to have been going on in our country and the rest of Africa for a while. And it was essentially how flashy that they are. Crowd1, I mean, there are many pyramid schemes at any given point, across the internet and, in every country. Crowd1 is particularly flashy, right? They have a very smart and slick sort of advertising style, and they managed to attract a lot of people using that. They've had events, very glossy events, that they make sure to record and put out there in the world to promote the sort of lifestyle that they purport to be giving to Africans, which is, an upgrade and kind of pulling Africans out of poverty.
Why did you get to the point where you actually determined that this was actually a pyramid scheme and not what they were purportedly advertising it to be?
Well, essentially, we, we followed each sort of so they have a platform, they have a website, and they also have an app, right? And on each of these platforms, they have a list of all these companies that they say that they say they are affiliated with, and it's those companies that they, encourage their members to promote, and then promise them rewards through that promotion. And essentially what we found was that each of the products, the educational program educational package that they have, that they sell, consists of content that's been, copied from existing content, which is a book on real estate by, an American, Goodfield Prostiowski. That content, was copied almost word for word and it just kind of transplanted onto their platform, and they sell that, right? They sell this package for, the most expensive. The cheapest package is €99, and the most expensive is €3,999.
Yep.
So they're making people pay for this package, even though you can either get it on Amazon for $10 or you can just download it online for free. Never mind that it's not the original content. We also found that some of the companies that they claim to be affiliated with have never launched. They are just kind of websites, and the other companies that they claim to be affiliated with, which do exist, those partnerships aren't real. Like they claim to have partnerships with companies, they simply don't. And so that's how we found that this is actually not a real networking company. And when you look at their webinars, you find that the main thing that they are pushing for members to do is to recruit other people.
Yeah.
Right? And so that becomes the main way that the members and also Crowd1 itself makes money.
You spoke to a number of people who fell victim to this particular scam, as you call it. And one of them is a lady from South Africa. She's an elderly lady, and she says she's putting all her savings into it. Just tell us her story.
Yes, so Rosina, we interviewed Rosina along with her daughter Regina, and Rosina's story is a tragic one. She had saved up. She's somebody who doesn't have a full-time job. She makes her money through selling various things, and had managed over the course of a year, to save, a good lump sum of just over 20,000 Rand. She had plans of buying materials. She lives in an informal settlement, and so essentially she lives in a shack, and she and her children had intended to, at the end of the year, kind of come together and basically just better her living situation. When the time came for them to actually do this, when her children were looking for her, they couldn't find her for a while because she was hiding, And they found out that she had actually taken all that money, just over 20,000 rand, and put it all into Crowd One, buying packages for herself and her family members, hoping to make, some profit on that investment. She was someone who was recruited by, church members, her fellow church people, and her pastor had a very big part to play in her recruitment, and seemed to be promoting Crowd One quite heavily in the church, and telling, the church members that he himself had made hundreds of thousands of rands from Crowd One.
So, it basically just sounds like the typical story of what would happen. The people that you trust are the ones who come and sell you this, and they tell you, I have made money out of this. And you may even go and find that the pastor was doing so believing that they're actually going to make money. Or do you think the pastor had already been recruited and was part of the scam?
Yeah. Well, we have no proof. We haven't spoken to the pastor himself. We didn't get his side of the story. He hasn't even really been identified. So we have no way of following up with the pastor and understanding what his motives are. But we are told by Regina and her mom, Rosina and Regina, that the pastor claims to have hundreds of thousands of rands himself, but they had never seen any proof of that, right? So it's either, he actually did, in which case, why wouldn't there be proof that you've made this much money? Or he didn't have any of that money and just hoped to make money by recruiting others and was essentially, selling dreams.
Can I ask this question? In Kenya, in this part of the world, for a long time, we've had preachers who are proponents of the prosperity gospel. Do you also have similar people in your neck of the woods?
Absolutely. No, certainly. I think at this stage it's a continental phenomenon, right? We certainly have such pastors. They're called charismatic churches, aren't they?
So what that means is that you're talking about groups of people who are already poised and positioned to receive, because from everything that we've read and we hear, Crowd One is a prosperity gospel.
It is, and I don't necessarily want to conflate, Crowd One, into, the church and kind of like religious discourse, because they simply don't make those claims, but they do promise to pull people out of poverty, right? And that they are, they've come to the continent to give access to the kind of digital entrepreneur space to Africans who, previously were not allowed or were not given the opportunities to be a part of that boom. So they certainly have promises, right? Like they have their evangelism is particularly about pulling people out of poverty. And I think that leaves opportunities for anyone else who has a platform who already uses that kind of rhetoric, whether religious or not, to then take advantage, of that message and use it, in a way that is appropriate for their space and their audience.
And when you did the story, you looked at how much people are paying on average, and then you tried to calculate how much then it's possible that this organization has made, or those at the top of the organization have made. Just take us through that.
Yes. So essentially, and I'm kind of off book right now, and the numbers out of my head, but essentially, Crowd One was ranked among the top 1,000 most visited sites, right, on by Alexa, and they had a great deal of people visiting the site, easily in the hundreds of thousands. And what we simply did was go, well, let's say, the minimum of that. Let's say only about 10% of those people actually signed up to the app, or or recruited themselves. And what we find is that they're well into the hundreds of thousands of euros, if not, at least 1 million. If you look at the minimum of people who might have bought the minimum package, which is 99 euros, the cost of the minimum cost of the smallest package is 99 euros. Yeah. So that's, so that's a good. And if you multiply 99 euros by 100,000 people, you get a good sum.
Yeah.
But there's no way of actually knowing how much they would have made.
And you cannot really tell. But you were able to write to them, and you got quite a voluminous response from the organizers. How many pages was it? How many questions did they satisfiably respond to?
So we sent them, the entire, the script itself, the film, and they were able to see our claims. We got a great deal of, it was legal documents, I guess, just like them kind of trying to maybe either drown us, in paperwork. But I think a better way to illustrate how much we got back in terms of a reply is that we couldn't at some point download the file from email. It was too big. So that gives you an idea of how much we got. But essentially, we were able to narrow that reply down to a few key points.
Okay. And who are these few people?
The key points?
Yeah.
Well, number one, they told us that they are a scam. So it's essentially, they deny being a scam or a pyramid scheme, and they claim to not break any South African laws. They call themselves a legitimate network company, and that they say that they offer, just legitimate products to its members and enables them to earn money marketing those products. They also said that they don't make money from recruitment, but only from these sales. Crowd1 also stresses that all their products are genuine, right? Despite the proof that we put forward to say, these products are not genuine. Mm-hmm. They also say that the educational packages are expanding. You'll find that in the film, we find that, the content that's on their website that you supposedly have access to in terms of the educational packages only amounts to about 1 hour and 45 minutes. At least the content that you get when you buy a black package. So they say that content is going to expand. They say that Mixter, the gaming platform, which they say is under the kind of umbrella of associated companies, will launch this year. Mm. It's been in perpetual launch for a long time and is in partnership with an established company, Emerge Gaming. They say the rewards are, the rewards and the bonus schemes are not marketed as shares or investments. Yep. And essentially the leaders say, deny, being affiliated with any previous. You'll know that we in the documentary, we link some of the leaders to previous pyramid schemes. Those leaders deny being a part of those leaders being Johann Holstein and Jonas Werner. And the rest of them say they've always attempted to stay clear from these schemes. The South African members, being Angelo Black and Masilo Mokone, Angelo Black says he is honored to be a leader in Crowd1. I'm not sure what to make of that. Yep. And Masilo Mokone, who goes as Mr. Smile, says he's just a member of the network and not a manager. We did not get a reply or response from Renze Dilstra.
When you confronted them with your findings, how did they respond?
Excuse me?
When you confronted them with your findings, how did they respond?
Well, it wasn't a direct. We didn't speak to them directly. We've only been able to speak to them via, their legal representation, whom we sent our findings to. And essentially, the responses we got were, the legal responses which I just listed with you.
Did you reach out to the government and the regulators in South Africa or any other part of Africa or any other part of the world?
So what we found is that in South Africa, there are investigations happening, right? So this happened outside of our, we didn't campaign for this to happen. I think we found out during the investigation. And in other countries, we also found that, governments in Paraguay, in New Zealand, in the Philippines, in Vietnam, Mauritius, Burundi, Namibia, Gabon, and the Ivory Coast have all issued warnings against Crowd1 or banned it outright. So we haven't approached any authorities, but we've seen, as the months have gone by, that there is some movement happening with the authorities in terms of investigating them or warning against them or banning them outright.
Is there any history of successful investigation and prosecution of such schemes in South Africa?
Look, prosecution, I know. I can't be sure that that's happening. I know that there's currently another scheme that I won't name that's being, investigated and is actually being brought to book. I think they have countersued. Nothing comes to mind of a previous scheme that actually, led to arrest and any kind of reparation. Typically what happens in South Africa, there will be a warning. These pyramid schemes would kind of, as they always do, collapse. A few of the leaders will be, taken to court or arrested, but no prosecutions as yet, to my memory.
All right, Ayanda, we thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Ayanda Charlie is a South African investigative journalist. She's the one who's worked on a piece along with the team at BbcAfrica Eye. The piece is Unmasking the Pyramid Kings. It's already up on YouTube. And what other platforms can we find it on, Ayanda?
So it's definitely on YouTube. There are shorter versions on the BBC website itself. It's a 1 minute and 34-second preview. There will be other shorter packages coming along from other affiliated sites, but that's to be confirmed. But right now, you can definitely watch it on YouTube.
Thank you very much. And you can also read the story on page 4 and 5 of the Standard today. Crowd One get-rich-quick scheme that has left dozens in poverty. It's already been published on the Standard this morning. You can get your copy and read on that.